From Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Purim. What is the Megillah all about? If we look at the Megillah, there's so many different topics, themes that emerge. Anti-Semitism, salvation, God doesn't forget us. So many different themes. Nafochu, things can turn around. But what is the major theme of the Megillah and therefore of the whole holiday of Purim? We find in the Talmud, the Gemara in Megillah, page 11 through page 17, the Gemara goes through an entire discussion of the Megillah. It's basically a midrash on every verse, more or less, of the Megillah from the beginning to the end. But before they engage in the Megillah itself, each rabbi, patach la pitcha la parshta mehacha, each rabbi opened up the parsha, opened up the Megillah from over here. He would bring a verse from somewhere else and connect it with the Megillah here. This was a common genre of midrash. Before you begin your lecture, you surprise the crowd with a verse from somewhere else. If you're learning Chumash, you quote a verse from Isaiah. If you're learning Isaiah, you learn a verse from Chumash. If you're learning the Megillah, quote from wherever you want to, but not from the Megillah. And surprise the audience with a connection between that and what you're studying. It also bolsters the connection between Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim. The idea that the Tanakh is a whole. Of course, each book is different, but they're also part of one whole. It's whatever's there. It's Shanui Banviim and Shulash Baktuvim. It says it again in the prophets. It says it again in the scriptures. It's all one. There's 17 different rabbis over 3-4 generations of Talmud who discuss their opening, their pischa, their opening of the parsha of Megillah. And I'd like to share with you a few that perhaps are different ways of looking at the Megillah than what we usually like to think about. One is Rabbi Yochanan. He started the parsha from over here. He says, a verse in the Psalms, Zachar chastov v'natol v'Yisrael ra'u kol afsei haaretz eishuat Elokeinu. We read it on Friday nights in a psalm that what? That all the nations of the world, they saw the salvation of God. And when did everyone see the salvation of God? In the days of Mordechai and Esther. You know, the idea that Achashverosh was king over 127 provinces was scary for us as Jews, and that's one of the themes of the Megillah, is that how precarious our situation was, that the leader of all the world at that time, where all the Jews lived, he was a maniac. He was out of control. He was a scary individual who could easily be swayed by Haman to kill the Jews. That's scary. That's one theme. But says Rabbi Yochanan, the other theme is, what about the potential for the Kiddush Hashem? What about the potential for spreading the word about God and how magnificent God is? To see the salvation of God. And that's what happened. If we almost had a total annihilation of Jews wherever they may have lived, God forbid, 100 times, turned out that we had a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name that you couldn't have imagined would have better press. I mean, all the Facebook publications and all the tweets and Twitters couldn't have produced such a magnificent sanctification of God's name. That all the 127 provinces saw that although a decree had gone out to kill the Jews, God saved them, and they had a salvation, and every person in every kingdom that mattered at all in those days, from Afghanistan to Palestine, all the way across the swath of the Fertile Crescent and beyond, Turkey, who knows where. They all knew that there was a God who cared about the Jewish people and saved them from the hands of Paro. That's Rabbi Yochanan. That's Pischa number one. That's one idea of what is Purim. It's a huge Kiddush Hashem. It's Pirsumei Nisa. It's the spreading of the word about an amazing miracle of the Jews throughout the entire world. Another theme that perhaps we don't always think about is Rav Matna or Rav Matana. He says, "Umi goy gadol asher lo Elokim krovim elav." It's the pasuk in Parshat Vaychanan in Devarim, where it says, who is a nation like Israel who has God so close to him? You know what the Megillah is all about? The Megillah is about the salvation of the Jewish people because we're so close with God. It's about the Jews praying, fasting for 3 days, and God answered because we have God so close to us. So we have God so close, why did we almost get killed? It's not that God always doesn't put us in difficult situations. Sometimes God is Moshiach, Magen, just protects us. But we have the opportunity when we're in that jam to call out to God, and God hears us. That's a great blessing. Megillah is about how close we are with God. I heard someone say that the tiniest Esther is not a sad fast at all. It's a happy fast. It's a fast that's a testament to the fact that Jews have access to God. Every good person has access to God. Everyone can pray toward the temple in Jerusalem and have access to God. That we understand that, we know that special connection. We know about Yerushalayim. We know about God, what kind of merciful God is. So there's no nation like us who has God so close, who has that ability to pray like we do. So that's the theme of the Megillah, says Rav Matna. That's the theme of Purim, that God is close and God can save us. Rav Ashi says that, you're onto something. It's right there. The theme of this parsha comes from Devarim. It comes from Parshat Vayetchanan. It's correct. But it's the other pasuk. Torah says we're great because we have God so close to us, and we're great because there's no other nation who had God remove them one nation from another. You know what the miracle of Purim is? Says Rav Ashi, and he gets the last word. He's the last rabbi of generation in the Talmud. He says, you know what the real salvation is? That God could take one nation out from another. Now, usually we understand that in terms of Egypt. That here in Egypt, Jews were ensconced in the Egyptian culture. We were embedded there. We were so enmeshed with the culture of Egypt. God had to pull us out. If we had stayed there another 5 minutes, we would have been so assimilated we could never get out. But somehow, God took one nation out from another nation. He could pluck us out. That's the amazing thing about the Jewish people. We are, when we're in France, we're so French. When we're in Germany, we're so German. When we're in Spain, we're so Spanish. When we're in Morocco, we're so Moroccan. But in a minute, say the Mashiach is coming. Say the opportunity came to move to the land of Israel. The Ethiopian Jews, they walk through Sudan to go to the land of Israel. They leave everything they have, Germany and Russia, wherever they are, in America, and they go to the land of Israel. Because that's what a Jew can do. That's what God can do, is take the Jews one nation out from another. Now, what has this got to do with Purim? The Jews were so assimilated. The Jews were so happy living it up, getting invited to kosher parties at the palace in Shushan with the king. The Jews had forgotten who they were. But there's always hope. A Jew can turn around and fast with Esther for 3 days. Esther, who perhaps some ways was also so assimilated, one reading of it, one way of looking at it, she was forced to be so assimilated. She too could come out from within her guise, her whole get-up, that somehow she's just a Persian queen, and she can emerge as one of the greatest Jewesses that ever lived in history. One nation can come out from another nation. One nation that's totally assimilated among another nation can come out of itself. In this case, it wasn't that so much we left and we went to Israel, but we came out spiritually and prayed and poured our hearts out and became a Jewish people again and prayed to God and prayed for the Jewish people. And in that sense, God pulled one nation out from another nation. It's about the idea that when assimilation gets really bad and it's so seemingly so total and so all-encompassing, there is still hope. A Jew can pull out from the deepest of assimilations. And we've seen it time and again. The Jews in America seem so assimilated, and yet they can still save themselves. They can still bring themselves back to Torah, back to God, back to Israel, back to Jerusalem, back to the land of Israel. That too is a theme. Just 3 messages out of 17, all kinds of other messages. Maybe we'll share some others and other weeks and other occasions. But what are the three themes we talked about? Rabbi Yochanan says, you know what the Megillah is? It's the massive Kiddush Hashem, a massive opportunity to share with all the 127 provinces of the whole modern world at that time how God cares and saves the Jewish people. Rav Matna said, you know what Megillah and Purim are all about? It's about how God is so close to us. It's a celebration of the power of Jewish prayer, of how a human being can be so close with God and have the access to God to save him. Rav Ashi says, you know what it is? Megillah is a testament that no matter how deep the assimilation is, God can pull the Jewish nation out from another nation, and he always does, and he always will. That's another theme of this amazing holiday of Purim. 17 themes, 17 messages, because every book of the Torah is rich with messages. What is the theme? People want to know, in a word, what is this holiday all about? Tell me what it means. There are at least 17 themes, 17 ways to introduce this parsha, this story, this book, this Megillah. Let us hope we can appreciate the depth of this, the Megillah, and other Jewish books throughout our lives. And thanks for joining us here at the Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer, and thank you for joining us.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.